Hello, everybody out there in internet world. This is Troy with the Reichert Mortgage Team, your loan guy. I have an cool guest here. I have Mark Hubert with My Front Range Living. He is also the sitting president of the RSC. Tell me what the RSC is.
That's the Pikes Peak MLS.
Oh, basically, he knows all the stuff and all the data of what's going on in the Pikes Peak region, which
He's
is
supposed
amazing.
to know all this stuff that's going on.
Well, I think he's a humble individual. We're happy to have you here.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for taking a little bit of time. We want to talk a little bit about what the renters are thinking out there about potentially buying, and it's really important. We know the housing market is very difficult out there for some folks, and you see that in the data, and you see it in real life.
Yeah.
With talking to some of the humans out there. And I wanted to get your input on a few things and help some folks out there to kind of maybe understand what they can do. Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? What are some tools out there? So help me out a little bit. When do you think, this is going to be an interesting question, what do you think is when it's not a good time to buy when you're renting in this current market?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is, when's it not a good time? If you can't afford it. Like, that's the, but I want to expand on that, because you and I understand what that means. But if you're renting, the American dream is to own a home. That's what everybody wants to do. That's what they're ultimately looking to achieve. And the reality of it is, with current prices and the cost of living, we've talked about insurance rates, just the cost of goods and so on and so forth, versus, that 5% wage increase, that doesn't really meet those needs. So if you can't afford it, don't do it. And what, as you and I have discussed, lenders are able to go a little bit higher on debt to income than they used to help people qualify for those loans. But just because you can go above doesn't mean you should. Be comfortable with your own budget. Be self-aware. If you've got another few $100s, I'm on board. Buy a home, because long term that's going to pay off. So just be aware of your budget. Should you buy? My answer is always going to be yes, because you and I talked about the wealth disparity from homeowners to renters. And people who own homes typically have more wealth. And that's what we want to help everybody do. Like, having a house, having a place to live is one thing, but it's actually a wealth building opportunity, especially you and I coming from an investment standpoint, right? It's an opportunity to build wealth. So, can you rent? Yes. Should you rent? It's really up to you. So just be wise with that. And this is a weird market, because it is a buyer's market.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And I've run into some folks, as you have as well. Like, for instance, I never tell anybody what to do, of course.
Yeah.
We're advisors, and what we tell them what they can do, like you said, but sometimes they're like, yeah, that's a little bit too high. Great. We never want to
Then don't do it.
encroach upon something that doesn't make sense to you. For instance, I'm a veteran myself, as you probably know out there. Sometimes those active duty folks that come in and they PCS into Colorado Springs, they know they're only going to be here 2-3 years, and they know that they don't want to hold on to it and rent it after they move. A short period of time like that could be a volatile issue for them, and maybe it makes more sense to either stay on base or post or rent. That way they don't have that risk.
Right. Well, and we talked about that. If you know you're only PCSing, and specifically for you VA folks, if you're only going to be here 2-3 years, now may not be the time to buy. You're probably going to be safe for renting, because it's safe to say that for the next year, we're going to look at market values stabilize, if not decrease a little bit, right? So you don't want to be losing money on this transaction. The entire goal is to have equity in your pocket, and when you go to sell, then you're making money. So from a VA standpoint, and again, you and I have talked about this, because that's one loan program, right?
Yep.
But we have a ton of military presence in our city. So if you're not going to rent it out when you leave, it may not make sense for you to buy right now. And if you are going to rent it out, remember, your VA benefit is still tied up in that home. So it's a matter of being wise. And I think that's where you and I work really well together, is just knowing hey, here's all of your options. Figure out what's best for you. As you said, all we can do is advise. That's right. All we can do. So self-awareness is a big deal.
Yeah, especially on that VA side, if you're active duty, you usually have that funding fee, and if you're not putting any money down, you're underwater almost immediately. So we talk about those things in depth. We're not here to finance a home and sell you a home and buy a home for you. We're here to advise you and make sure you're hopefully making the right decisions for you and your family.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about, again, affordability and maybe not being in the market for very long, 2 to 3 years, as reasons why you shouldn't. What are some of the reasons, in your opinion, why you should buy a home?
Well, and like I said, now it's a buyer's market. So that funding fee that you're talking about, Troy, concessions are a big deal right now. I talk about them all the time with buyers, because what's interesting is, and you and I have done stats, and you might have a link in the video for folks to this infographic that we've done. Here's, if you buy this house just as it sits right now with 10% down. And then here's if you bought it, but you put 10% down toward concessions or closing costs. And here's if you took that $10,000 and took it off the sales price. The concessions are making a bigger difference than bringing down the sales price right now. So, I think for buyers out there, that's something that you ask Troy about. Hey, what does this look like? What are all of my options? Because sellers are going to be more intrigued, typically, by paying concessions as opposed to bringing the price down. Because sellers get to write off, and if you're thinking of selling, understand this. Sellers get to write off whatever it takes, any cost that they incur to sell their home. So concessions are one of those things. They get to write that off at the end of the year, versus if they drop the sales price, they're not writing anything off. They're just taking a hit.
Yep.
Right? So concessions could be rate buy-down. Concessions could be closing costs, which are those VA funding fees, right? So there's a lot of different ways we can help buyers. Like, let's look at all the options you have, because it's not as easy as, well, I can't afford this price point, so I got to bring that down. Well, yes, maybe you're bringing that price point down a little bit, but I would say concessions are going to make a bigger impact typically on a monthly payment than, number one, how much you put down, and as well the actual sales price of the house.
Yeah, and we'll put that information right in, maybe in this video, or it will be down in the description for you. Just an example of what it looks like to maybe reduce that purchase price versus keeping that purchase price where it is, and asking the seller for what we call seller concessions, or help for closing costs, those kind of things. So really, times to buy a home is when it makes sense for you. And if you're going to potentially own that home for a longer period of time, the risk is less, right?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
And all of this is drinking from a fire hose for a lot of people. Like, you and I are helping some folks right now. They're later in life. As a matter of fact, they're retiring from the military. First-time homebuyers will ask questions. They're learning so much in this process. They're realizing, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do this. This makes sense for us, right? So it's our job to know this stuff. It's not yours. So ask the questions, right? Because there's so many moving parts to any transaction. And it's not a one-size-fits-all industry. Like, how many times do you meet somebody who's like, well, you've got this option and this option? It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. So you being self-aware, bringing your questions to us, really helps us help you specifically in what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you bringing that up. The conversation is crazy important, and it's important to do it early, okay? Doing it early gives you those tools in place. Maybe the answer is, you know what, I can move up my timetable. Or maybe it's like, well, now I need to push out that timetable. We're not going anywhere, so we're going to be there to make sure that we're giving you the updates that you need based upon either maybe some loan programs that are out there, or market updates to make sure you're entering into the home purchase market when it's appropriate for you. So with that in mind, that's a really good tool, by the way, and a really good tip. Have the conversation early, and I think Mark would agree. The mortgage professional conversation comes before the house conversation. So
way before.
Yeah. Talk to this guy and then talk to this guy. So because then that will set up the framework for being able to buy a home with confidence and knowing exactly what you can do.
Yeah, you don't want. I've seen it before. People fall in love with a house. Are like, hey, this is awesome, and then they go talk to the mortgage guy, and the mortgage guy's like, ain't really gonna happen. And/or it's going to take you months, and that house isn't going to be available anymore. It's so important. Talk with Troy. What are your options? Okay, and we've had this conversation with these particular folks that we're talking about right now. Hey, I can afford this. Well, that's great. Just because you can't afford it doesn't mean that's the price point you have to be. We can actually find what you're looking for at a lower price point. So, I mean, just really ask the questions. It's so important. Start with Troy. Troy's going to give you all of the information, and then when you get into my court, I'll open the door for you. We'll go in. Hey, it's meeting our criteria. It's doing this, it's doing that. Okay, well, at this price point, you know, looking at comps, you can probably bring the price down, and they're motivated. I think you're going to be able to get concessions too. So there's a lot of great things that we can help you with, but absolutely start with Troy. Put a link to your application in the description of the video too.
We'll absolutely do that. We'll put the link to your website as well, because you've got some really good stuff on there too. He's got a really robust channel about what's going on in Colorado Springs, and it's really cool, with maybe some bloopers in there too.
There's lots of those. There's lots of those.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about some other tools that you know, some of the potential homeowners out there can use to maybe. We talked about concessions already, but maybe we dive a little bit deeper into that. Tools to help with that home affordability for these folks in today's market.
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind, talking with Saul yesterday, we're walking through a few houses, and you know, what about this, and what repairs am I going to have to do in the next 5 years, next 10 years, so on. Maybe a home warranty. Maybe a home warranty is what we set you up with, which is possible. You can ask for that in the inspection process, or it can, you know, somewhere in the process, just get a home warranty. That's going to take a load off of your shoulders and just give you a little bit of peace of mind. So that's another thing you can do if you're worried about some of your major components or something like that. Inspections are where you're going to save yourself a boatload of money. Have that third party professional come out and show you what they see. They're going to see stuff that I don't see, Troy doesn't see, that you don't see. And so that's a big deal as well. So from an affordability process, yes, you have concessions. Yes, you can bring the price down, but you can also save yourself some money on some of the major mechanical stuff by having a home warranty. That's always an option. You can ask for further concessions when it comes to the inspection. But here's what I'll tell you. Don't get overhyped on how many concessions you're asking for. It will impact lending. There are limits to what you can ask for when it comes to the lending side. So make sure that your agent and your lender, Troy and I work really, really well together. So make sure that your lender and your agent are talking to one another, because that matters. We had a closing held up because someone asked for too many concessions and they no longer qualified for FHA. It had to shift to something else and they couldn't do that.
Yep.
So just be aware of that. Again, asking questions, being in communication, knowing what it is you want. Once we know what you want, it's so easy for us. Okay, great. So I'm giving them what you want on the home side. He's giving you what you want on the financial side, and you're just packing up and moving. That's really your job. Once you've given us our criteria, we're doing our job, but we have to stay in constant communication. So I think it's really easy to find different ways to make a home affordable or fall in your price point. There's some motivated folks out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find we're both investors, and we have some investment properties where I'm always looking for you know, information out there that might actually be a good deal, right? And right now, for a lot of buyers, there's some good deals out there.
Yep.
And so how do we use that? Well, from a loan standpoint, some of the tools that I want to at least make sure that we're pinpointing is temporary and permanent rate buy downs. Those are absolutely available right now to lower the monthly payment and interest rate on those. Now, temporary, you know what that means. It's only for a year to maybe 3 years. But again, it gives you that wiggle room to maybe you're going to get that promotion. You know it's coming as an active duty member. I've actually used that before. Or maybe you feel really confident that the rates are going to come down in the next year and you can refinance out of that. Oh, by the way, there's some really cool things that we can talk about in detail when you give us a call. Contact information down there. And so that's one thing that I really wanted to talk about, is making sure you understand that. And for some of our conventional folks out there in different income brackets, I have a program right now where you can get up to $7,000 in your down payment for free, and the interest rates are really cool. So they're on par with what's going on out there. It actually is free money. Usually there isn't, but this is free money if you qualify for it. So let's talk about those things. Sometimes assets is the issue. Sometimes monthly payment is the issue. We have some programs out there that might benefit you. So please do me a favor, give me a call, and then once you feel comfortable, if you don't have an agent, Mark would be a great resource for you. He knows everything that's going on in there. So I wanted to make sure you guys have that information. Remember, sometimes it's not a good idea to buy, and we're going to probably tell you that. Sometimes it is. and we want to make sure that we're tailoring that information to you specifically. We appreciate you checking this out. Again, please do me a favor, look at the content down below in the description. We want to make sure that you're connected with professionals out there. Appreciate your time. I'm your loan guy, and this is
Mark with My Front Range Living. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Hey, take care. All right, bye.
Bye.
Take care.